From the world of AV programming and control with James King, I'm Steve Greenblatt, and this is Ask the Programmer. James, how are you today? I'm looking forward to another great episode with you.
I'm doing great, Steve, and always look forward to having a conversation about programming.
Excellent. We got a good one today. We have our friend and past guest from Commercial Integrator. He's the group editor, commercial and security with Emerald as his official title, but you know him as Dan Ferrisi. Welcome back, Dan.
Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you so much, James, for having me back. I really appreciate the return invitation.
So Dan was last on episodes 124 and 125. So check those out. And we had Dan on to bring to us some questions in the spirit of Ask the Programmer from the commercial integrator community. And he does a lot of discussions with integrators and programmers across the landscape of the AV industry. So Dan, I'll let you take it away and let us know what you have for us today.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly as you said, Steve. I'm in conversations all the time with members of the industry community, industry stakeholders, be they integrators, consultants, vendors, etc. And programming increasingly comes up a lot. I think largely things that you do and James does and Brittany does just to elevate the prominence of programmers, the programming craft and trade. I think you've all done a wonderful job collectively. And I think a lot of people have questions, concerns, ideas they'd like to get out there. And thankfully, I was able to be kind of their intermediary this time. So I do have some questions for you, straight from our audience, straight from our community. The first one is this. How do out-of-date drawings and bills of materials ruin your deployment strategy, requiring rework? And this guy gave me a kick, slamming your head against the wall. Do you have those moments due to out-of-date drawings and bills of materials? Do they just kind of ruin things and muck it up?
If Steve, you don't mind, I could jump right in on this one. I'm actually in the midst of something due to this. Without going into full details, we were hoping to have a project fully done by the end of June. We are 99% done, but it really stemmed because of bad drawings and bad design. Wrong verbiage there, not bad. Inaccurate design and inaccurate drawings led to part of the project taking longer than we budgeted. For example, one location we budget a week to do the full end of it. It took 3 weeks because it set us back because of that.
I'll kind of talk to this in a couple of parts. One is that a lot of times the approach to a project is we will figure it out when we get in front of the system and we see all the equipment. And that works very well if you happen to be able to be in front of all the equipment. But a programmer they don't do their best work in front of a bunch of equipment in the midst of chaos or and an installation. They do their best work where they could focus, have all of their setup, multiple monitors, have the materials and have all their resources available to them. So a lot of times when we don't have detailed drawings or when the thought hasn't been put into making the drawings accurate, a programmer may be forced to either take what they have and run with it, or they may be forced to kind of figure it out on their own. Neither of them result in an accurate outcome. And programming either works or it doesn't work. You can't just move over the ones and zeros and say, okay, now it's going to work. So the need to have to make changes later is just, in my opinion, a recipe for inefficiency and really causes a lot of stress and fatigue and a lot of discourse amongst everybody involved in the project. And unfortunately, the client probably is the victim that has to bear the brunt of it because they're the ones that either get a delayed project or have an increased bill, or there's or they don't get the outcome that they're looking for. no need for this. If we could be a lot more accurate and a lot more thorough and a lot more organized up front, we will save it double at least on the back end. And we tell this to people all the time. Well, any planning you put in up front, you will always get return on your investment.
The word that keeps coming to my mind is the word meticulous. I mean, we work in integrated systems where everything really has to be just so. As you say, things can't be wrong and the programming will work. It either works or it doesn't. And the same thing with taking many, many pieces of hardware and software control platforms and trying to create a fully integrated, cohesive system out of it. I think that's the reason a lot of integrators worry about staging systems before they actually get to the site. They want to make sure in a controlled environment, everything is going to work exactly as intended, exactly as planned to deliver that outstanding outcome. And the same applies most certainly to programming. As you say, you can't just kind of move the O's, the zeros and the ones where you need them to be if something is totally amiss. So you need to be able to plan and have some forethought, right?
I think you nailed it. The other part of my comment was going to be not updating your information to have as-built drawings and have accurate record keeping can be just as painful, because you're either not updating the latest program, you're working off of drawings that have not been adjusted to match what is built in the field, or you have lack of information, which then it almost can cause you to have to redo everything that you've done already, which to me it's almost embarrassing that our industry does things like this, because these are where we get our black eyes and where we can be very vulnerable. And I think that it's something that can be fixed if we, as you said, we're meticulous and we're responsible.
I think that's where part that led to this banging your head against the wall is we don't, and I mean we as the AV industry do not put enough emphasis and enough time on the pre-planning and the post-planning of projects. Another project I actually, again, had where we were, had to deal with a bad or inaccurate information was as built. As you said, they should be accurate to what's in the space. Well, unfortunately, we knew our as builts are not accurate. We had a project come up. They asked for our drawings. They even walked our site and took photos. We told them, here's our as builts. These are not accurate, but these are what we have. They marked up the as built to do what they wanted to do. And I'm like, no, you're missing the point. I was like, your team even came and took photos. And the reply I got back was, oh yeah, we lost those photos. And I was like, well, I already informed you that these as-builts weren't accurate. And now you're designing your whole project around these as-builts that are not accurate. And you had accurate information, but because you didn't do the proper planning and storing and all that stuff on your end, now we got to go back at this project a third time.
That is going to make anyone drive their head against the wall. I mean, the level of frustration I would feel in that situation, especially as you say, you have the accurate information, or you had it at least, and now you're working with inaccurate information. The idiom I've heard is hurry up, get it done, do it over. Hurry up, get it done, do it over. And it's just not the way we should be doing things if we're going to be professional.
Yeah, and I had someone who mentioned that in a high profile meeting at nowhere I worked or anything, but he was at a high profile meeting, and the person goes, oh yeah, we do it right because we do it twice. And that did not go over well in the meeting.
Yeah.
The other one that I've heard is that you don't have enough time or budget to do it to do it right the first time, but you certainly figure it out the second time.
Yeah.
So that's it's a shame, unfortunately, and I've even seen, and I think that other people would probably start nodding their heads, is mistakes carried from drawing to drawing because they weren't fixed the first time, and this room is like the previous one, so we're going to make the same mistake again.
Yeah.
And of course, we're all human, and we're all working fast, and we're all trying to be as efficient as possible, but there needs to be some type of checks and balances, or some way of being able to say that if we spend the time here, we're going to be giving our future self a gift.
Yeah,
That's 100% right.
yeah, I forget who I heard this from, but I heard someone who says like an hour of pre-planning at your desk saves 2 hours in the field.
Yeah.
And staging, as Dan said, is a good example of that. The companies that stage systems, that you can make your mistakes in staging, but it avoids making the mistakes in the field. And we've worked with a lot of different integrators over the years, and we've found that the ones that take staging seriously are the ones that usually are far more successful.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. Although, of course, you need to know what environment you're prepping for, so the staging can actually be somewhat accurate. So if the drawings and all that is wrong, if the environment is different from what you expected, then your stage system may not be such a perfect facsimile anymore anyway. So going back to the question, meticulousness in all things, including designs and drawings and planning, I think that's the order of the day.
Absolutely. I think that's a good way to wrap this one up. And hopefully, Dan, we've answered your question, and feel like the audience got the messaging that they're looking for.
I think so. Yeah. Thank you very much once again on behalf of our audience for, again, allowing me to be the intermediary and get that question answered.
And just for some context too, Dan was kind enough to have us be able to publish a little article about Ask the Programmer on the Commercial Integrator website. So keep an eye out for that, and we'll be doing this again in the future. And there'll be another episode next week where Dan will be on with us. But we'd like to continue to gather this information, and Dan does such a great job of being able to present that to us and really crystallize some of these topics. So thank you, Dan.
Thank you very much for leveraging our platform. We really appreciate the friendship, not only with you both, but also just broadly with your organizations and Commercial Integrator. Please do reach out to me at dan.ferrisi@emeraldx.com. If you have any questions you would like me to share with Steve, share with James, I'm happy to, again, be the intermediary and get those burning questions answered about all things programming, since programming has come so much to the fore lately, not least because of the efforts of James and Steve and Brittany and your respective teams.
Thanks so much. And any other ways that people can get in touch with you or find out more about what you're up to, or meet you in person sometime in the near future?
Sure. So you can see me, of course, on commercialintegrator.com, securitysales.com, which I also oversee, which is physical and electronic security. I'll be at CD Expo and CIX. Looking forward to seeing you there, Steve, in September. Also, Total Tech Summit coming up in November. That's in San Antonio. And of course, on X and on LinkedIn, you can find me. I'm really busy these days, so I'm not as active as I wish I were. I'm going to try to make that my mid-year resolution to get more active on socials again. But that's where you can find me. I hope to see you there.
Thanks, Dan. We really appreciate it. And James, how can people get in touch with you, keep up with your efforts and your work, and also continue the conversation?
If anyone can keep up with my efforts, let me know, because I want to know how I keep up with them. But no, again, you can get me on X at AV_James King. LinkedIn, in our community, the Ask the Programmer community on LinkedIn as well. We HEPMA, anything with HEPMA, I'm pretty involved there as well. And the writer for the Higher Ed Digital Magazine, the IT and AV column that comes out monthly. Again, Google me, you'll find me.
Excellent. And for me, you can reach me at Steve Greenblatt on social media. My company, Control Concepts, is a supporter of the show. We write the API integrations for manufacturers that help programmers make their projects go smoothly. And we also do a utility module store. So check that out at controlconcepts.net/utility modules, where you'll find some free and low cost resources for programmers. We love to hear from you. And as James said, we have a community, which is a group on LinkedIn. Please join in there. That's where you can continue this conversation and continue to present the topics and the questions that you want to hear more about. We'd love to have you join us and get to know you better. So connect with us on LinkedIn and to continue to be in touch with this podcast. We're on YouTube and on your favorite podcast player. And that's what we have for today. This has been Ask the Programmer.